Hello, join us on the ground here in Tromso for another one of our tutorial videos as part of our Euro tour. We're on leg 5. We've already taken in England, Scotland, Iceland, the Faroe Islands, and now we are currently on the ground in Tromso in Norway, heading on a short hop, flight time of about an hour and 38 minutes to Stockholm in Sweden. As you can see, it's night time, so we have got a night flight here, and yeah, let's see how this one goes. An hour and 38, and this is how to fly the Fenix A320. Now, a lot of the flows that you see here today you can also use in the fly-by-wire A320 or A32nx. It works exactly the same, so you can follow along and it should get you in the air and successfully flying. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget, hit the like and subscribe button underneath, and you can follow us and get alerts to the next legs. And if there's anywhere that you would like us to visit in Europe as part of our Euro tour, let us know in the comment section below and we'll do our best to accommodate. Right, without further ado, let's get ourselves in the cockpit and let's get some lights on. So, it's pretty hard to see, but let's get battery 1, battery 2, external power, and let's get the dome lights on. I think there we go, got some lights on. So that's our overhead panel lit up. So we did battery 1, battery 2, external power, and our dome lights here. So as with all Airbus, it's white lights off. So we just got to go and turn off all of the lights to start with, the white lights only. And then we are going to align our IRS. Now, remember to do that. It's left, right, middle. 1, 2, 3. Switch to nav. So 1, 2, 3. They'll start aligning. We can let them carry on. Just going to put some heating in the cargo. I'm going to arm the doors, no seatbelt signs, and I'm just going to turn our beacon on. And while we're here, let's start our APU, which of course is the auxiliary power unit, and that's the small engine at the back of the plane in the tail that we use to power our electrics and start our engines when we are off external ground power. So we can start that running now. Now, let's go just get some light on our pedestal here, so I'm just going to turn the lights up. And the floodlights. The cams are all up. Brilliant. So let's go into our FMC and let's get started. Actually, before we do that, electronic flight bag, EFB. Let's just bring in the flight details from SimBrief. So let me just show you very quickly. Here is our flight plan already programmed into SimBrief. As you can see, I have generated a flight plan here which you can do as a PDF. You can print it if you would like. Wouldn't recommend it, it's 19 pages long. However, that gives you your full flight information. But the key bits of information you need just here. So British Airways, Speedbird 74 Bravo, aircraft type A320, originating out of Tromso, and our destination is Stockholm. Airtime 1 hour 38 minutes, and here's our routing. So we're going to be departing Tromso on our Mocha 1 Bravo departure and arriving in Stockholm on the HMR 3 Juliet arrival into runway 01 left today. So let's just go back into our electronic flight bag. Let's bring in our flight from SimBrief. We should just import it straight in. There we go. And let's just quickly check our METAR. So to be able to interpret METAR, this is our departure METAR, Echo November Tango Charlie Tromso, on the 5th of the month, which is today, at 18:20 Zulu time, so that's when it was published. Wind currently 190 degrees at 12 knots. Visibility is 10,000 meters or more, which is really good. These are the key bits. Temperature 03 degrees, which is warm for Tromso. and our QNH is 1003. So we will need to program the QNH in a second. That's ground services. Mass and balance even. Let's start loading the aircraft. 9 minutes to load. All the doors are open. I'm going to turn the chocks off because they float in the air for some reason that hand modelled airports. No idea why, just what happens. Okay, let's go into the FMS and let's start programming. So, first stage, ATSU, AOC menu, flight init, and because we've connected our Fenix to our SimBrief account, we can just hit the line key next to init data request, and that will bring in the data straight from SimBrief into our FMS. There we go. Speedbird 74 Bravo, departed Tromso, going to Stockholm, route time 1 hour 38 minutes. Next, init page. Now, some people may say, oh, you're doing it wrong, that's not how you do it. This is just the way I do it, it works for me. If you follow this step by step, it should get you safely off the ground, flying the Fenix A320 or the fly-by-wire A32nx and on the ground again. So, init request. It's going to pull in that data again, but some we will have to manually input. So our flight number we're going to have to manually input. So Speedbird BAW, British Airways, 74 Bravo. Cost index today, which is from our flight plan, is 10. Our cruise altitude is flight level 370. There we go. Our zero fuel weight is 59.2. And I'm just going to put the forward slash, and I'm going to leave the zero fuel weight center of gravity until we've finished boarding, and we'll get that from our electronic flight bag. But by putting the forward slash, just says this, the bit before it is the bit we're inputting. Okay, now block fuel today is 7.1 tons. So I'm going to give us a little bit more, so I'm going to go 7.2. There we go. And again, we'll come back to zero fuel weight. Next, going to our flight plan, and we're going to start our departure information input in there. So, as I said, we're on the MOCAX 1 Bravo departure. Let me show you what we've got here. So there's our departure. Whoops. There's our departure. Straight out, directly in a southerly direction. So we hit TC 707 before we make a bank to the left on 154 degrees to TC 705. Back to the left 128 degrees. All the way to MOCAX, which is on the Norway-Sweden border. So we're actually not in Norwegian airspace for very long. Tells you what the minimum glide gradients are, but the aircraft will stick to all the constraints. Now, interestingly enough, there are no constraints, so we would have to be governed probably by ATC if we were using ATC as to what our altitude would be. So that's our departure, quite straightforward. It's probably a straightforward departure in terms of waypoints, etc. However, the winds do tend to get up between the mountains, so it can be a bit rocky. We're not expecting it to be today. It's quite calm this evening. Then let's have a look at our arrival. So our arrival, it's quite an interesting. So we're on the HMR 3 Juliet arrival, which is a Hammer arrival. So we arrive here at the Hammer VOR, and we track down. We've got to be above 10,000 feet. If you have a look here, above 10,000 feet at Sierra Alpha 500 on a direction 185, above flight level 8,000 feet at 499. Continue to follow the star, descending all the way. Now the aircraft will follow the descent profile from the top of descent. it will follow it and it will stick to the constraints. It will not drop below or above the speed or below the altitude on the constraints. So we need to be then at 2,500 feet at 605, 802, and again look at the speed. We'd have to reduce our speed 200 knots, 180 knots before making our final turn onto final approach. And it's an ILS approach today onto runway 1 left. And the 2,500 feet is really important because it is at 2,500 feet that we will start to capture the glide slope at 7.6 miles out. And we'll start our descent into runway 1L with our decision altitude today at 299 feet. And that's the height. If we can't see the runway, we'll be going around or auto landing. We will be going around because we're not going to auto land today. So we have to look here, missed approach, climb straight ahead to 600 feet or D1.7 past SSADME, whichever is later. Then we turn left on track 328, climbing to 1500 feet, and then we'll get radar vectored in for a new approach. We'll have to do it ourselves because we're not on VATSIM today. There is no VATSIM online, I have checked. So we would have to hand fly back onto the ILS. Not particularly tricky, should be quite straightforward. So let's go back into the MCDU. So ENTC, departure. We're on the runway 18. Just going to double check that. Runway 18. And we're on the MOCAX 1 Bravo, the Mocha 1 Bravo. Don't worry if the 5th letter is missing. It is always missing from the SIDs and the STARs. You will only get the first 4 letters, the number and the last letter. So Mocha 1 Bravo is the same as MOCAX 1 Bravo. So we click that and go insert, and then it inserts all of our waypoints. And then the line key next to our arrival, which is ESSA, click that, click arrival. We're at ILS 1 left, and we do want a star, and we are on the Hammer 3 Juliet arrival. So we click that, and let's insert. Now I'm just going to check, just to make sure we haven't got any discontinuities, because we might. It doesn't look as though we have. It looks like we're okay. So 1 left. Now another way to check this, to see if it makes sense, is to use the plan tool in the EFIS. So if you look here, it's already on arc. That's your navigation. It's a bit like your sat nav for the sky is arc. However, if you want to see whether it makes sense or not, just turn it to plan. Scroll back out so you can see the navigation display and the MCDU. You need to see both, because what you need to do is hit the up and down arrow. So here we are on the ground. If I hit the up arrow, that's our you'll see it changing here, so you can see the route we're going to take, which is right, because we will be heading south. Keep clicking it. Just let me go back. This arrow here, the white arrow that points downwards, is the top of descent. So it is at this point we need to start our descent down to 2,500 feet. Now obviously if air traffic control was online, they would vector you in, they would give you your altitudes. But they're not today, so we will head down from this point for 2,500 feet. And let's just check. There's Hammer. Here's all of our waypoints on our star. As you can see, we start to move towards the airport, and then we final descent into ILS 01 left. And the blue line you see is our missed approach. So if we have to go around, that's the approach we're going to be following. Our alternative route is also programmed in. Brilliant. Okay, so let's put that back on arc because we're done there. I'm just going to set our attitude on here. Now you can see it's raining, it's wet, but there's lots of snow on the ground here in Tromso. So it's going to be an interesting departure, right? I think. Okay, let's go back into our flight bag. So boarding's now complete. So let's get our weights and balance. And what we're looking for here is the zero fuel weight percentage. And it's 31. 31, really important. So back into the MCDU, go back into init and hit write. Now rather than have to write 59.12 again, hold on, I should have memorised that, 31. What we're going to do is just put / 31.0. And that's just saying we're inputting after the /. And then you'll find that our fuel prediction is now all complete. So block fuel should have 7. Let's have a look. 7 tons, 7.08 tons. That's enough to get us there, so that's good. I think we're all almost ready to go. So just a few things to do in here. We're going to put this to auto and to TARA. Now we're not on VATSIM, but we're going to give ourselves a squawk of 3256. On the left hand side, turn on the scanning, GCS, System 1 and auto. That's the wind shear, really important you get the wind shear right. And then let's go back in here, performance page. So this is our takeoff performance page. And the way we calculate this is on the EFB. So we go back to our electronic flight bag, little arrow at the top, second icon, that's our departure performance. So we're on runway 18, we are. Now the surface isn't dry, it is wet. Sync our load sheet, because we could bring in all of our data for our load sheet. But what I'm going to do here is it's flaps 2. We're going to do flaps 2 takeoff, anti-ice is off, PAC's off, and that's on the overhead. That's all done. Let's sync the live weather. He says. Interesting. Let's reset that. Ooh. Oh, looks like we're going to have to input this. It's played up. So ENTC, runway 18. It's wet. Sync the load sheet. Flaps 2. Sync the weather. There we go. Then hit calculate. And that will automatically fill in here. So, really important information. Left hand side, V1 is 125 knots. VR, which is our rotation speed, that's when we pull back on the side stick. V2 is 139 knots, and that's the speed at which we cannot abort the takeoff. Transition altitude I'll go to in a second. The thrust reduction is 1020, and that will be pretty close already, I would have thought. Flaps 2 down 0.1. Flex to temp is 58 degrees. So let's go back into the MCDU, and all that data we can input. And you've got to do this to tell the aircraft how to configure itself for takeoff. So 125, 136, 139. Oops, start again. 136 VR, 139 V2. Transition altitude is 7,000 feet. That's the altitude at which we change from barometric pressure to standard pressure. So remember when we had a look earlier, our QNH is 1003, which we'll input in a minute, and I'll show you where to do that. And at 7,000 feet, we can move over to standard. Thrust reduction is fairly close. It's actually 1020 / 1020, and our engine out is 1020. Flaps 2 / DN 0.1, and our flex to temp today is 58 degrees. There we go. So that is now all of the GPS ready for takeoff. So we're nearly there. Now I said to you earlier about our QNH. So you'll see there QNH is 1013. It's actually not, and it's really important that you program this in correctly, because otherwise you will get incorrect readouts on your height. So we are at 1003 for takeoff. That is likely to be different in Stockholm, and I'll show you during the flight where we go to check that. Back to our overhead. We've now got our APU, and I can show you on the outside of the plane. You can probably hear it. You just see the exhaust fumes coming out. Oops. There you go. The exhaust fumes are coming out here, which shows us that the APU, the auxiliary power unit, is running and powering the plane. So I can turn off external power now, and we can disconnect that in the electronic flight bag. Let's go to the ground services, and the GPU we can now turn off. And let's connect the tug while we wait. So the tug is coming. Yep. Good. Okay, let's get some lights on up here. So ready to go. We're going to turn the strobe lights on, the nav and logo lights on. We won't put the other lights on, because if we do that we're going to blind people. But I am now going to turn on the seatbelt signs because we're about to move. And that's it. We're ready to go. We're absolutely ready to go. So tug is connecting. We can start our pushback, and I'll turn off the brake. Oh, that's interesting. Not very well modelled there, but never mind. And we'll push back, and there's the tug. Look, nicely held on. Now, while that's doing that, just on the overhead, turn on the APU bleed, go back. I'm going to do that. What we can do, turn on the ignition switch, fire up engine, do while we reverse. I'm just going to go back and just check how we're getting on our pushback. I want to be on this line here, facing down there. We're going all the way down there. There's an airplane come in actually. I'll start turning now. And here the engine's spooling up, starting to spool up nicely. So we'll leave that running. And we'll just get pushed back. It's a bit slow, this tug, but never mind, just bear with us. I am running FSLTL, so we will see live traffic as well. There we go. Let's turn, start to turn. And you'll be up there, look. Turning nicely. Turning nicely. Right. And I think we can probably stop. And once we've stopped, parking brake set, disconnect the tug. Let's leave that running. I'm just going to check how we're getting on here. All good. So let's start engine number 2. Or engine 1 even, not engine number 2, engine 1. And as you can see, ooh, It's now starting to spool up. We'll just watch the N1 creep up until it becomes available. There we go, that's a nice straightforward startup. No messages of concern. All green, which is what we want. So while that's spooling, I'm going to go into the FMC, I'm going to go back to the menu, I'm going to go to ATSU because there will be company messages there. AOC menu, received messages, just accept our load sheets. We're actually on time, which is good, because if you're late in the Fenix, you will get a company message asking you to state why you are late. Just part of the realism. And there's one taking off. So we're now available. Parking brake. I can turn off the ignition switch. What we'll do is we'll come up here, we'll turn off the APU bleed. And we can turn off the APU. Let's put some taxi lights. And we'll get takeoff lights ready, but I shan't be putting those on just yet. There we go, we've got some lights on the situation. So, taxi is straightforward, straight down Yankee, straight ahead of us, just follow the green to the very end, and then at the end we will turn onto the runway and we'll be straight off. Let's get prepared actually before we do that. We're going to arm the ground spoilers, which are these. Flaps, we know we're on flaps 2. So 1, 2, and auto brake, which is here, I'm going to set to maximum. Really important we set that to maximum. I'm actually going to turn the terrain on because I can. There we go, terrain scanning. I think it's important because we will be coming in and out the mountains. And I'm going to start the chrono. Okay, ready to start our taxi. Parking brake off, bit of power. I do find the nose wheel steering on the Fenix can be quite a pain in the neck sometimes, so we've just got to be a little bit careful. We don't oversteer to bring it back, it can be really tricky. But so far so good. And this is the Simulations modelled Tromso. A really quality model if you're looking for a nice regional airport. Really recommend this one, and it's available from the marketplace or direct through Orbex. Okay, so we've now got our checklist come up. Everything is all set apart from takeoff configuration test, and that is this button here, that one there. Click it and that's it, set, all green, no blue, we're good to go. So it just taxi nicely down. Just a bit icy in Tromso as it is this time of year. But making our way down. Flight time 1 hour 38 minutes. Current time is 19:12 in the sim. So what's that? Just before 8 o'clock. No, just before 9 o'clock. Try again. Here we go. So we're going to just tap the brakes just to slow down a little bit. I have got rudder pedals with toe brakes which come in really handy. Okay, that's what I mean about that oversteer. It does just sometimes, and I'm going to stop here. We're going to hold here. Going to check left for aircraft. No aircraft left. No aircraft right. So we're going to enter the runway. While we do that, let's turn on our takeoff lights. So runway 18, flight to Gothenburg. Okay, well, there we go, oversteer yet again. It's very strange, I don't know why it does it, but right, we're off. Here we go. $100, check. V1, rotate. Positive climb, gear up. We can go into, whoops, what's that? Why have I got warning? There we go. Autopilot is set. Oh, that's why I didn't set the speed here. That would have been interesting. Managed. I know, I got it. $37,000 feet. We're not having a lot of luck here. 37,000 feet. There we go. Phew. Should now start to climb now to 37,000 feet. I didn't set the altimeter and I should have done. Phew. We got it. We're back. It's okay. Pilot error. Yep, terrain ahead. But we are going to turn left, so I'm hoping we're going to be okay. Follow that coastline and the sound and the fjord. And we're climbing steadily now, 3,000 feet. Dear me, that was a bit of a schoolboy error. Don't forget, on the ground here, really important, set your altimeter to the cruising level. The plane will automatically stick to the constraints, but that's really important. Schoolboy error there on my part. Climbing nicely, 5,700 feet on the departure, the MOCAX departure. And what I'll do is let me show you while we're in there. Look, whoops, not the flight plan. There we go. On the departure there, look, 154 degrees currently, and we're going to make a left bank in a second for 128 degrees, heading to MOCAX, right at the Norwegian-Sweden border, and then we'll pass into Swedish airspace. Now you'll see we've now passed through, if I look on here, look, we've now passed through 7,000 feet, so the QNH is flashing at us, so it says we can now go to standard. So what we do is pull this knob up here and it'll say standard. That's the standard barometric pressure for our height, for our altitude. And that's it at the moment. We've got the seatbelt sign, got the landing lights on. I'm just going to go and check. So once we get through 10,000 feet, we can go back to our panel and we can turn off wing light. Oops. And then our taxi lights and our takeoff lights. Runway lights. Seatbelt sign is off. I think we're good to go. That's us. Switching panel. Not a clue why we've got that green on there. There's nothing on up here that shouldn't be, is there? Don't think so. Is there anything on here that's untoward that I can see? I don't think there is. Lock the door, forgot to do that. Switching panel. Not sure. I can't see anything that should or shouldn't be on. Switching panel. Anybody got any ideas? Let me know in the comments. I may just do a very quick Google just to see if I can find out what switching panel means. Switching panel can switch backup computers. Oh, blimey. Well, there you go. Don't know what that is. Got a switching panel. Wait a minute. There. Is that it? That was the first officer. Let me check. Yeah, that was all it was. Just on our EFIS selectors down here, the switching panel was over to first officer, and they should be just in the middle to normal, and it was just telling me. So I've got no warnings there. So yeah, please, when you take off, don't forget, put your altitude in. I was getting too carried away. We were flying at 100 feet. We were going to head straight into the ground there. So yeah, just be mindful. Make sure your altitude is set. We'll make mistakes, but it's fine. No one died. It's a sim. Oops. Yeah, so we're making our way nicely down the MOCAX 1 Bravo departure. Very shortly we'll be banking to the right as we leave Norwegian airspace and enter Swedish airspace. And it's such a clear night. You can see the mountains on the top here, the snow-capped mountains. If I look out here, look, you've got the mountains, you've got lights down below. Really clear evening. Let's have a look outside. So we're still climbing for 37,000 feet. Look at that for a view there, all the mountains. Wow. Stunning, absolutely brilliant. Love it. We're not expecting to see much air traffic until we get closer to Stockholm. As we enter Stockholm, it is likely to be quite a bit busier, and we will see plenty of aircraft, I would have thought, in the skies and coming into land. And ILS 01 left, yep. Here we go, just start our bank now. Banking right. And we're still on the MOCAX 1 departure. Not long until we leave Norwegian airspace behind and we enter Sweden, which of course is the next country on our Euro tour, where we try and visit all European countries and their dependencies through Microsoft Flight Simulator. So in the coming months we will visit all of those countries, but it's down to you. Where do you want to go next? Leave us a comment, let us know. And if you haven't had a look at our previous videos, have a look at some of the other videos where we've taken in England, Scotland, Iceland, Faroe Islands, Tromso in Norway. Have a look at the Faroe Islands, the Vegar, both the arrival into Vegar, that was really hairy, but stunning, and also taking off Vegar to Tromso, we hit some heavy wind and turbulence as we came out of the airport. It was terrible, so definitely worth a look. Not seen turbulence like that. Right. In fact, we're not heading into Swedish airspace straight away. We're now heading south. We're not far off. We're just running down the edge of the Norwegian, and let's have a look. If you have a look here, you've got Norwegian airspace on this side, Swedish airspace on this side. We're just coming down the edge until we cross over here into Swedish airspace and just track south into Stockholm. Should be on the ground in, well, let's have a look. What's the sim telling us? So the way to find out what time you're likely to be on the ground, let's go into the FMS. Let's go flight plan. It's saying 2050. So 2050 we should be on the ground. And we'll be at the top of climb at 1935. So current time in the sim is 1924. So about an hour and a half-ish, we should be on the ground in Stockholm. Just a short hop down. And if you like what we do and you want to follow us, get alerts to where we're going next, just hit that like and subscribe button. It supports the channel, lets us know what we're doing is right. Try not to make too many mistakes in crashing the aircraft in the future, but yeah, let us know, and also let us know if you want any special tutorials putting together. More than happy to have a look at that and put some other tutorials for you. We have done some on the MCDU and programming the MCDU in one of our playlists. Have a look at those, and if they're helpful, again, let us know. So flight level 260 for flight level 370. Climbing nicely. No warnings. Engine's looking great. As we can see, no issues with the engines. Fuel use, still got plenty of fuel. I'm not worried about the fuel. Fuel on board today is 5.9 tonnes left. That's plenty to get us down to Stockholm. Yep. All good. All good. Very snowy, very icy Scandinavia. So we leave Tromso. We're 24 hours of darkness this time of year. We're going to be leaving there and heading into Stockholm. So we're leaving the Arctic Circle now, and hopefully we might leave a bit of the snow behind, and we might get some clearer daylight runs for our next leg. So while we're waiting for the climb, let's go back to our electronic flight bag and go to my flight. Now, we've said that got the METAR here for Tromso, but you can also check your METAR for your arrival. And if you click that, here's the METAR for our arrival into Essa, Stockholm, on the 5th at 1850 Zulu hours. So it is likely to be updated before we land. Wind is variable, but only at 2 knots, so there's only a very slight wind. It's a very calm evening. Visibility 10,000 meters or more, so really good visibility. Shouldn't have any problems seeing the runway. There's a few clouds at 1,600 feet, broken clouds at 2,900 feet. Temperature today on the ground at this moment in time is 2 degrees with a dew point, -2, with a dew point of -3 degrees, and the QNH is 1022. Again, really important, because if you remember Tromso, it was 1003. So there is a difference, and we've got to remember that, because we will have to input it before we land into the barometric pressure, and we do that at the transition altitude, which we'll get from the charts. So let's go and have a quick sneaky at the charts. So we'll be arriving, as we've said, on the Hammer 3 Juliet arrival. Now, the charts are really, really useful, and the information at the top gives you lots of useful information that you are going to need coming in. Now, interestingly, for this airport, the transition level is by ATC. So there isn't a transition level set. You would get that from the air traffic control. Now obviously we haven't got air traffic control on today, so we're going to set it at 7,000 feet. So if there isn't any, you can set it, see, 7,000 feet is fine, 6,000 feet, 5,000 feet, it won't matter too much, just don't go below 5,000 feet. So you're requested to plan your descent, so perform a continuous descent operation from at least flight level 100, 10,000 feet. Well, that's quite straightforward because the aircraft will do that for us. So we're okay. And if ATC was online, we would get vectored in, so we wouldn't necessarily be following the star all the way. Chances are we may get some shortcuts, or we may get some speed restrictions just to keep the separation between ourselves and any other aircraft. And if we go in, so we notice here, look, maximum of 200 knots, 2,500 feet at SA605. So we've got to make sure that we slow down. That's already programmed into the aircraft. It will decel itself, and then we'll hit the approach phase as we turn and capture the ILS. Now, here we go. Interesting. Here we go. Transition altitude, 5,000 feet. So let's use that. We'll use the 5,000 feet. It's already on this chart. If we were on ATC, these are the radio frequencies that we would need. So ATIS for arrival to get our latest METAR data. We tune in 119.005. Stockholm approach 123.755, who would then pass us to tower 118.505, who in turn would pass us to ground, and they would then give us instructions on how to get to the gate. So that's our final approach. That's the localizer frequency, the final approach course 004 degrees. Height at D40, which is here, 1,370 feet. ILS decision altitude is 299 feet. 299 feet, really important. If we can't see the runway or we've got problems, we have to make a decision by that point. Now when we program that into the aircraft, what we will hear is 100 above. That's when the aircraft is at 399 feet. So it's an early warning that your decision altitude is coming up. And then you'll hear minimums. That is you at your minimum decision. You've got to make a decision at this point. 299 feet. There's no getting away from it. And we'll fly in. Now at D4.0 we can hold. So we can get put into a hold at D4.0 if needed. Sometimes to lose altitude, or there may be a problem ahead, we may get put into the hold and we'll just have to follow ATC instructions. I'm not expecting that today, so hopefully we'll be alright. And the ILS frequency 4 degrees 109.9. That's the Morse code that you can hear sometimes as you fly over it. You'll hear the Morse code kick in. And as we've said, 2,500 feet, capture the ILS, and it will start to bring us down nice and steadily onto 01 left. Stockholm, Sweden. Okay, so we can be ultra organized here. So if we come in here, we know we've got our METAR data. Just going to go to the third icon. If I go to the top and go to the third icon, that's your arrival performance. Click that. So runway, S is already programmed in. Runway 01 left. Now, I know that the ground today the runway in ESA is good. Now we can apply the METAR, it'll automatically bring it in. I'm going to go medium auto brake. Now the landing weight I'm going to get from my plan, 62 tons, 62.0. I don't even need the medium auto brake, it's going to stop us really quickly. So let's go low auto brake. Low auto brake will give us 2,104 meters of stopping. So we're absolutely fine. We can do that. So that's how we're going to set up. Now we know, we're going to make a note of this, and we will probably have to make some changes. We will come back and check the METAR, but it's wind is 250 degrees at 4 knots. It's -3 degrees Celsius. It's 1022 here, 1022. And barometric pressure. Go back into our MCDU, go to the performance, go next phase, next phase, next phase, and that data can all go in here. So QNH 1022, line key next to it, inputs it in. Temperature -3, so click the plus and minus, -3, enters it for you. 250 degrees at 4 knots, 250 degrees at 4 knots, and we do have a very short video on how to do this if you want to check that out. Transition altitude we know is 5,000 feet. Our approach speed is 137 knots and our landing speed is 132 knots. And in radio, this is a radio call out. This is that 299 feet. And it's by doing this, it tells the aircraft at 399 feet, you're going to warn me by saying 100 above. Then you're going to give me the call out at 299 feet of minimums. And that means I have to make a decision. So you're warning me, decisions coming up, and then at 299 feet, you've got to make the call as the pilot in charge. So we've programmed the approach phase data in here. We've not hit approach phase yet, because the minute you do that, the aircraft is going to start to slow, and we don't want that to happen. We will have to come back and check, because the closer we get, it could well be temperature drops, it could be that there's a change in wind direction and wind speed, or a change in the pressure. So we will have to check that. The rest won't change. So radio is 299, and approach speeds and landing speeds, they will change with any of this data for us automatically. I'm quite happy with that, so let's leave that for now and just admire that view as we come over a very clear sunny, it's not sunny at all, snowy Norway. Look, I've got a little town ahead because you can see it's lit up, more light. And there's no moon, so we're on a new moon. Oh no, there it is. There's the moon up there, look. There's the moon up there. All good, it's looking really well set up actually. Really pleased with that. So other than the little hiccup of forgetting to set the altimeter, that was ridiculous, but never mind, we're doing alright. So 1937, should be on the ground in 1 hour and 10 minutes. We're making steady headway as things stand at the moment. We're shortly, if not, we're now well into Swedish airspace. Just making our way south, straight down the middle of Sweden now. Heading for Raisin, which is our next waypoint in 204 nautical miles, and we should get there at 20:04. So a little bit of time yet. A little bit of time. It's 1937 currently. So just after 8 o'clock, we should hit next waypoint. And shortly after Raisin, we'll hit Sipri, and that'll be the start of our descent into Stockholm, Sweden. And again, the flows that you've seen today, they will work in the fly-by-wire. The only thing I would say is that the Fenix will follow constraints on our descent. So if we were to descend for 2,500 feet, where it says on the charts you've got to be above 10,000 feet, the Fenix will follow those. That's not all necessarily coded into the fly-by-wire yet, but I believe it's coming. So VNav is definitely coming to fly-by-wire, and depends on what version of the fly-by-wire you are flying. I always find the developmental version is the best one. It's not 100% stable, but I don't have too many problems with it, and you get most of the latest features. The experimental version is likely to have quite a few bugs in it, and unless you're experienced, I wouldn't go near it. I would avoid it. So, Sweden. Anybody been? I've been to Malmo. I was staying in Copenhagen, and you get a train from Copenhagen to Malmo, but the daft thing is you've got to get off at Copenhagen Airport, walk around a barrier, which is an open barrier, but walk around it, line up again to then get back on the train to cross into Sweden. That's the passport control checks, and they do bring dogs and police on as you enter Sweden as well, but you go across the Öresund bridge, which is the bridge that just seems to pop out of the sea, middle of the sea. Fantastic piece of engineering, big tunnel. You come out the tunnel, boop, and out. Worth a visit. If ever you're staying in Copenhagen, just hop on the train. It's only about half an hour. Doesn't cost a lot of money, and you can go into Malmo. Just one word of advice though, don't sit in the quiet cars. I accidentally sat in a quiet carriage, didn't realise, and got promptly told off for talking to the wife. So, just so you know. While we're here, just want to say thank you to our latest subscribers, H. Lightsphere, Ray Tran, and Enrique and Lonzo. Thank you very much for subscribing, and if you are interested in what we do, you want to keep track, don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button yourself, and we'll keep you up to date with all our little adventures and tutorials. We'll do some more. This is the bit of the flight I really like, just looking out, checking everywhere, just monitoring the engines, just keep your eye on there. If the flight goes fairly quickly when you're up here, you can get some good views. We'll see Santa in a couple of weeks' time flying over, and his reindeer, Rudolph, leading it. Let's turn the dome off for a little while. We can turn the dome lights off. There we go. Don't need the dome lights on now. Quite like it in the dark, just all well lit up, and yeah, it's nice, really nice. So, where are we now? Just looking not far off halfway, probably about a third of the way through. Just steadily making our way down the centre of Sweden. We will cross over the coast of Sweden in probably about an hour's time, 45 minutes time. Then through parts of the Black Sea before we start our descent into Stockholm. Dee 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 dee. And our alternate airport today is Örebro, which is a regional airport. Hopefully we're not going to need it, but we do have it if we get really stuck. But at the moment, on for Arlanda Airport, which is Stockholm's airport. Echo Sierra Sierra Alpha. Yeah. No change as yet to the METAR data. You can get that on SimBrief. Some interesting things with SimBrief that you may or may not know about. So on the map on SimBrief, not the published map on so this is the official flight plan. Now obviously that's just got your plan and your waypoints, and you can't check anything. They're fixed because it's a PDF, but you get all of your wins. You can program those into your MCDU. You do get your wins. However, on the SimBrief plan, you can click waypoints. It'll tell you what altitude you need to be, what speed you should be doing, the time to get there. But also, if I click on Echo Sierra Sierra Alpha, which is the airport, you'll get the latest METAR. So that's the one before, that's the 5th at 1730 Zulu. So you can see how much it's changed. And then that is current METAR. So we can also cross-reference on the SimBrief chart should we need to, but I always find it's just as useful to use the electronic flight bag. You don't necessarily need to come in here and get all the information. Just checking everything's in there's okay. It looks to be. Yeah, we're making our way steadily down. Making good progress. Let's just check in the MCDU again. Let's go to flight plan. So now it's in 2049. So you can see we've come via Mocax. We're now heading to Racen. And should be at Racen. It's 138 miles away. Should be there 2004. And then from there we'll have another 170 miles to our top of descent. And we should be at the top of descent at 2027 before we start our descent on the Hammer 3 Juliet, standard terminal arrival into ESA, Copenhagen, Stockholm, Echo Sierra Sierra Alpha, also known as Arlanda Airport. 2049. We've got 414 miles to go, and estimated fuel on board at that moment is 3.2 tons. So we're going to have plenty of fuel left on board, which is good. We may have overcooked it in terms of the fuel, but I'm happy with that. And engine's looking good, got no memos, no warnings. I've just got to keep checking the ECAM, but there's nothing there, so happy with that. So, any questions or any ideas of where we should go next on our Euro tour? Don't forget, just leave us a comment, let us know, and then we'll have a look, see what we can do. And who knows, we could be could be visiting there on our next leg of our journey. So all 44 European countries and all the dependencies, and if a country doesn't have an airport that we can fly to, so for example Monaco, Vatican City, what we'll do is we'll fly to the nearest airport. So for Monaco we'll be flying into Nice and the Côte d'Azur, and Rome Fiumicino for Vatican City. That obviously we'll do 2 airports in Italy and 2 in France. So yeah, let us know where you'd like us to go, and if there's any tutorials that you'd like to see us do, more than happy to put those together. Just leave us a little comment and spread the word. There will be some lives coming up as well. That was the other thing I meant to say in the last video. We are going to do some live legs in the coming weeks. Probably more over Christmas once I've got a bit more time, but we will do some live legs. So you can join in the chat live while we do it. We're passing over now the Swedish mountains. It does look rough terrain, doesn't it? It's really mountainous. Beautiful fresh air though. I really do enjoy the Scandinavian countries. Clean fresh air. It's my favourite place, Norway, by far, to visit. I visited Bergen and Tromso, and the snow is something else. You know, we don't get snow that badly over here, but over there, waist deep. Really impressive. So, all set up nicely. So I say, if you follow the flow that we put together, but obviously remember your altitude. If you follow those flows, it should get you off the ground, no problems. I'm not saying it's the way they do it in the A320. I'm not saying it's the right way to do it. It's just the way I do it. But it works. It gets me off the ground okay, gets me in the air, gets me flying, and 9 times out of 10 it gets me on the ground okay as well. It's just a bit of practice, and those flows will work for both the Fenix and the fly-by-wire A32nx because they are the same aircraft. So it will still work. It doesn't matter which one you're using. So give it a go. Don't be afraid. You know, let us know how you get on. Let us know if you found it useful. Let us know if that flow works for you. Works for me. And I'm self-taught. I YouTube videos. Used to watch a few, and then I had a go myself and did a step by step. Just don't forget the altitude. And we are currently at flight level 370 ourselves, so we're at the cruising altitude. Current speed is Mach 0.775. So if we have a look, let's go just have a look at the displays here. You can see our ground speed is 452 knots. We're actually travelling at 250 airspeed, but ground speed 452 knots. Our targeted airspeed 447 knots. We've got a crosswind from 266 at 13 knots, so it's not too heavy. And you can see we are, so the yellow line here is the direction the aircraft is actually facing, but the green is the track that we're on, is the direction we're moving in. And the reason that we're aimed slightly to the right of the waypoint is if we aim straight at it, that wind would knock us off and we would end up missing it. We'd end up down the left hand side of it because of that crosswind. So the aircraft is actually accounting for that crosswind to make sure we hit the waypoint when we should hit it. And next waypoint is always shown here in top right, 174 degrees, 83 nautical miles, and we'll arrive at 20:04. We've been in the air now 43 minutes. Our attitude display, well, this is our speed strip, this is our altitude strip, and that's the attitude of the plane. So we're not actually perfectly horizontal deliberately, we are slightly nose up, and that's the way the aircraft will travel. If you were perfectly horizontal, actually you'd find you'd lose altitude. So at flight level 37 degrees, and here again this shows just on a strip exactly what we've got on the right hand side. So our heading is 174 degrees, but actually we're having to just poke our nose to the right of that, because if we didn't we would miss it. So that's the yellow line, just to show that we're slightly off, and green is the waypoint direction. So all good. And here you'll see STD, which stands for standard, and it just reflects our QNH. So if we were to come off standard and change this to a QNH, that would show here instead. And like when we took off, as we arrive, because our transition level, remember, is 5,000 feet for arrival, when we get to 5,000 feet, that will flash to say and remind us we need to change this to the local QNH, which at the moment is 1022. That might change, so we will have to check that the closer we get. So that's the information on the two displays here. Autopilot 1 is armed, flight directors 1 and 2 are on, and auto thrust is on. And we're in nav mode, we're at cruise, and we're at Mach because of the speed in which we are moving. It's a Mach speed rather than at knots. So it's 0.775 Mach. And all good. There you go, there's the moon up there, look. Some lights down here, so we've got the road, we're going into the town, and roads below us. Really well modelled. Sober have done a really good job of this, and it does get better and better despite the niggles. So you do get niggles with every update, but the sim is getting better and better every time. Let's go have a look. We should see ourselves in the... There we go. Got the pilot and the co-pilot. Fantastic. Next best thing to actually flying, I would have thought. Oh dear. Right, back in. So 1957. So what have we got? 1957. About 53 minutes, roughly. 52 minutes till we're on the ground. Only 54 nautical miles away from Raisin, which is our next waypoint. We'll arrive there at 2004, so 2004. Then we'll have 170 nautical miles to top of descent, which is at 2027. So we just need to be aware that we'll be hitting top of descent at that point and be ready to arm our altimeter. Here we will reduce that, change our altimeter from 37,000 feet. What we'll do is we'll change that to 2,500 feet, which is the height at which we will capture the glide slope, the ILS. And don't forget, because we've got VNav enabled on the Fenix, because Fenix simulations have done such a good job with the programming, it does have vertical navigation. It will stick to all of the constraints, which I'm going to turn on here. So if you would like to see the constraints in your navigation display on here, what you need to do is hit CSTR on your EFIS constraint, and that will show if there are ever any constraints in a magenta colour. You'll see those as we come in on our star. You'll see them. And I'm just, what am I going to put on here? I'll put airports, so we'll see the local airports on there. And then what we'll do as we get closer, we'll change this one to the landing system, so we can see as we're coming into land on the right hand side, we can have the landing system line up while we're watching our normal navigation display. And that's it. Doing okay so far. Do 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 do. I'm just checking to see whether we've got any VATSIM online that we can tap into, but it doesn't look as though we do at the minute, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame, because we could have connected to VATSIM just for our arrival, but there isn't any. There isn't any at the moment. We've got Helsinki control on. Don't think, no, they're not controlling Stockholm. So unfortunately, we're going to have to make do. So just a quick lesson. Let's go back to the navigation display. There's a difference. You'll hear people talk about heading and track. There's a subtle difference. So the heading is the direction in which the aircraft is pointed. That is the heading. So our heading here is 177. So 177 degrees is the aircraft heading, which is the yellow line. Our track is the actual direction that the plane is taking across the ground. And it is taking a track of 174 degrees. And as I said, the reason the heading and the track are not the same is because of this crosswind that you see here at 267 degrees at 19 knots, which is quite a strong crosswind. So we have to face to the right of our waypoint and the direction we want to travel in to compensate for this crosswind. So the heading is the direction of the plane where it's pointed, so we're kind of crabbing slightly. The track is the direction of the plane across the ground. So we're moving at 174 degrees, but facing into 177 degrees to compensate. So that's the difference, heading and track. Yellow is your heading, green is your track. Quick lesson for you. VATSIM looks busy over Germany, Austria and Central Europe today. Very busy actually. Wow. And south of UK. Way. If you're new to VATSIM and you want to give it a go, we will do some VATSIM tutorials actually. But have a look at Edinburgh or Jersey as airports to start with. They're really good airports to start. And the other two is Reykjavik or Vegar. They're also they're quieter airports. And and the controllers a bit more, they've got a bit more time to support and help you. So if things aren't going, you know, going great in terms of you're new, you want a bit of support, how to say things correctly, they will help you out. So always look, Jersey, actually Bristol as well, Edinburgh, and either Vega or Keflavik. I always find when I first started, they were the places I always went to for VATSIM. Just made life a little bit easier and less daunting, actually. So a bit of water coming up. Let's see where we are in relation to. Yep. So we've got the coastline of Sweden coming up here ahead of us. We'll cross over that coastline into over the sea as we start towards Cypre, and then after Cypre we will start our descent. If you look at the right hand display, if I just change the distance, those purple dots you see there are all airports. Click that button there, turn them off, turn them back on again. Just change our range. Don't want to turn those airports off because there's too many of them. So we can see top of descent coming in around 180 miles away. So making steady progress to top of descent. And then we start our star in. So that's on this side here. So that's snow and ice slowly clearing. There's the coastline coming up ahead of us. Just making a steady progress now. Yeah, there's the coastline, Swedish coastline all the way down there. Leaving the ice behind. We'll make our way over the sea. Nice the moon's out, it's putting a bit of light on it rather than it being a pitch black flight. At least we've got some light, so there's some things to see. Is that an aircraft in front of us? Is that the first one? OSK, no it's not. No it's not. We should start to see aircraft coming in. The closer we get to Stockholm, the busier it's definitely going to get. There's not that many flights flying over northern Sweden. There certainly won't be many at 37,000 feet, that's for certain. They're going to be probably below us. I haven't seen anything in the sky yet, but we are injecting, so I'll just have a quick look on Flight Radar 24 just to see what is coming in and what isn't coming in. I have found FSLTL is pretty accurate, I've got to be honest. It is pretty accurate in terms of its modelling, so it should be for Sweden because of course Flight Radar 24 is Swedish apparently. I didn't know that. Okay. I don't really want Sao Paulo, do I? Stockholm. Right. Ooh, Stockholm Bromma. Don't want that one. Arlanda. Stockholm Arlanda Airport. Oh dear, there's a 5-minute delay for takeoff and a 10-minute delay for departures. Let's have a look at arrival board first. So where do you on the ground? 2150. Yep, there should be one in front of us. 2 in front of us. Ooh, that's interesting. 3 in front of arrivals. Is that right? 21:45, 21:50, so there'll be one just after us, there'll be one ahead of us. And then departures, let's have a look what we got for departures. Again, this is just on flight radar. Flight radar 24 I'm looking now. So there's one going out at 21:50 just after us, an SAS to Stockholm. What is that? Oh, that's the ATR 72. And then there's another one at 21:55. That's estimated. There are some big delays, you know. That's an A320 coming out. So we should see a couple of A320s on the ground and possibly a couple of A320s in the air. There are quite a few aircraft currently around Stockholm area just taking off or flying over. A lot of regionals, but there's a lot of delays. I wouldn't want to be flying out of Stockholm tonight, that's for certain. Wow, okay. Glad we're not there. Well, we will be in an hour, but let's have a look. Let's have a look at the nav. It's a bit bright. PFD, primary flight display, and our ND, navigation display. You can adjust the brightness with these knobs here on this side. So just turn them fully off. You do have to be a little bit careful because sometimes you do that and you think, whoa, where have they gone? But actually all you've done is turn them off. Turn the brightness up. Let's come. Hello. Why has that just changed? That was interesting. I wasn't expecting that. It's changed to the other side, look. I have no idea how I've done that. There we go. This button here. So if you want to change these, I forgot that. You click them, it will change them. I just prefer to fly with the nav display on the right and the primary flight display on the left. Just a personal preference, but yeah, strange. Okay, let's go back and check our electronic flight bag. And let's check the METAR. So let's update it. Retrieving the METAR. So this, so we have had an update on the 5th at 1950 Zulu. Remember the last one was 1820. So wind is currently 234 knots. -3 still. QNH is now 1021. So we will have to go back and change that. So if we come back into our MCDU performance page, next phase, change our QNH to 1021. It might not be the only time we do this. I just like to keep on top of it. And wind 230 at 4 knots, 230 at 4. That's it. That's the only change we need to make at the moment. We will keep checking as the flight goes on, certainly before we start our descent. We need to keep an eye, very close eye on that. So what we got there, about 120 miles before top of descent. Making good progress. 2012, so about 2028, 2029 we'll start our descent, and we should be on the STAR probably about 2035, all things being equal. So far an uneventful flight is good. I prefer uneventful flights, believe me. Just coming down the coastline now of Sweden. We'll follow this coastline all the way, just make it out up there. We'll follow it all the way now south to Cypri. So as we come in, don't forget, below 10,000 feet, the maximum speed you're allowed to do is 250 knots. So we just need to bear that in mind. Now the aircraft will take care of most of that on its own, but if you do need to intervene, you use the speed dial here to reduce your speed down. But it should follow all constraints, so we shouldn't have too much of an issue with height, and we shouldn't have too much of an issue with the speed. We should be okay. Landed on the left runway at Stockholm. There are 3 runways at Stockholm. So we should be on the left runway, which is one left. And if we're on VATSIM, we would be calling up the ATIS on 119.005 in the next few minutes, just to get an idea of the latest ATIS, so we were ready, so we can just check what is in our electronic flight bag, really. No other reason, just keep cross-referencing, keep checking your EFIS to make sure, your ECAM, just to make sure there are no warnings. All good at the moment. Nothing there, no warnings there either. No more messages. It's good. All good. (2015) flight planning. 2049 still, top of descent at 2027, so we've got about 12 minutes before our top of descent. So if we want to, we can start to prep our altitude. So all we're going to do here is reduce our altitude. We're not going to actually descend yet, because we're not telling the aircraft to descend, to 2,500. I've done going in thousands. If I click just at the side, it will change to point to 100. I can now put the aircraft to 2,500. Not going to do anything more. Not going to start descent yet. It's too early. Don't need to. But as soon as that top of descent marker, remember it's a white down pointing arrows, then once we pass over it, hit the descend button, and the aircraft will take care of the descent profile itself. It will do it for us. We won't have to do it. It will just follow all those constraints until we take control on final approach. We're just going to track nicely down. There's the coastline. It's difficult to see on your screen, I would imagine, but that's the coastline of Sweden there. Beautiful clear sky. No aircraft in the air at all, which is really interesting. Looks like we left Tromso at the right time. There's a big bank of cloud and snow now just hitting Tromso. So I think we left just at the right time. Excuse my squeaky chair. Anybody got any recommendations on a good chair? I do want a new chair. A nice gaming chair, but I don't know which one to treat myself to. Keep looking. So if you like what you're seeing, if it's of interest, don't forget, just give it a quick like and subscribe. That would be really useful, helps support the channel. As I say, we'll keep producing the videos and keep producing the tutorials, and hopefully we can learn together. I'm not saying this is the right way, I'm self-taught, I've just been simming for a long time. It just works for me, it just gets me up and just lets me enjoy it. So again, you know, it doesn't matter, long as it works. We're not crashing all of the time, only some of the time. And that's what's important. I think that's the beauty of the simulator. We can learn together, we can make mistakes, it doesn't matter. It is very busy on VATSIM further south than Sweden's not covered tonight, unfortunately, but from Copenhagen south to northern Italy across to, is that Romania's even covered tonight, so is it Turkey, Chisinau, Moldova, that's even covered. Poland, Czechia, Czech Republic, and anything to the east up until Moscow. Actually, Nakova International Airport is actually online, but everywhere else is chock-a-block. There's loads. There's not that many aeroplanes though. That's interesting. Where oh no, there they are. Yes, fairly busy. I don't know if there's an event going on in Central Europe tonight, but it is very busy on VATSIM. Just a shame there's nothing on Stockholm or Sweden for us. That would have been useful. Could have given some lessons into VATSIM, but there you go. Another time. Fuel on board 3.8 tons, so we're doing okay for fuel at the moment. All the engines look good, no issues there, no ECAM warnings, and no turbulence, which is even better. You can see on our primary flight display, FL25 has now come up. It's flight level 250, it's actually 2,500 feet, which is what we've programmed in here. And it's blue because it's not active yet, so it just shows that we have programmed a different altitude to our cruise altitude, and the minute we pull it, the knob here, we will start to descend to that altitude. Please don't forget, before you depart, set your altitude. My mistake, I was in a rush, but never mind. We're safe. We missed the mountains, we missed the fjords. We did all right. So about 40 nautical miles, and we'll be at top of descent, and then we'll start our descent into Stockholm. Very cold Stockholm. It's actually colder in Stockholm than when we set off from Tromso, which is interesting. But crossing the Bothnian Sea currently. It's not the Black Sea, it's the Bothnian Sea. And arriving in Arlanda Airport just before 10 to 9. So around about half an hour we should be on the ground, should be at the gate, he says. Now we've got our first aircraft, look. Let's have a look, where's that? So it's 1,000 feet below us, but it's coming just, there it is. Hold on, minus. Well, it should be 1,000 feet below us. It looks like it's 1,000 feet above us, but never mind. We'll see as it gets closer, but that's the plane there. That's our first one. that we've seen. In fact, I think it is 1,000 feet below us. As we get closer, it's becoming a bit clearer. Yeah, steady progress, doing all right. Yeah, steady. So our top of descent should start coming into view shortly. Doing okay. Just checking. Yeah, here we go. The top of descent now has come in. Look, it's come into view here. You can just see it. So just see it on the nav display. That down arrow is our top of descent. So that's the arrow we're looking out for. 24 nautical miles to go, 2028, and we can then start our descent to 2,500 feet. And as I said, the aircraft will follow all of the constraints. So I'm not going to worry too much. It's coming, we're coming down slowly, making good headway. 15 miles. Doing okay, here we go. Just got to keep your eye on that. And we should be starting to descend nicely in a second. Here we go, just flying over now, about to fly over, 7 nautical miles. You just see that in here, 7 nautical miles to go. 6. No, that's not true at all. Here we go, we're just flying over it, so I've done it now. That was actually to the next waypoint, so ignore me. Just ahead of us now, but we are starting our descent on time. And as you can see, we're now descending quite nicely. starting our bank to the right, which will take us onto our star. Oops, sorry, didn't want to do that. Just going through flight level 340, 250, but we will follow the constraints. So if I'll just show you very quickly, you can see here the constraints. Just after hammer, waypoint on the Hammer 3 Juliet star at SA 500, we've got to be above flight level 100, so we've got to be above 1,000 feet at that waypoint. Now the aircraft will take all of that into consideration, and we will stick to the waypoints and the speed restrictions as we come in. So descending nicely. Just going to check again the electronic flight bag. Let's refresh the METAR. 2020 Zulu, so we have had another update. Really glad we checked that. 240, it's just a slight direction change. It was 230 earlier, so it's now 240 at 4 knots. -3, 1021, so that hasn't changed, but the wind has. So let's just go back very quickly into our performance page. Again, it's just here, so 240, just put the /, it should just change to 240. No, got to do the whole thing. Yeah. Okay, 240 /, 4 knots. There we go. Back to plan. So 2034 will be on the star, and descending nicely. 4 minutes before we start the star. Descending quite nicely. And so watch out as we get lower, as we're on the star. On the final approach, we will get the standard flashing when we are at the transition altitude. That's when we transition from standard pressure to local pressure, which currently is 1021. As you can see, this is where we are now. Just heading for hammer before we start on the green, which is the star, and we make our way round to final approach into our lander airport. Should be on the ground about 2050. So descending profile's nice. There's no height restriction at hammer, but there is at the next waypoint, which is Sierra Alpha 500, and we've got to be above flight level 100, as I said. Next waypoint, Sierra Alpha 499, got to be above flight level 80, so 8,000 feet. So we'll be descending nicely, but by the time we get to 605 and 801, we've got to be at 2,500 feet. And the reason for that is that we've got to capture the ILS. And that is 2,500 feet. So I'm hoping that we make this descent. Steady away at the minute. So landing lights all stay off till 10,000 feet. Same with seatbelt signs, unless you've got turbulence, of course. They stay off. Let's have a look. So there you go, you can see where we're going. We're going to go up and round, and the purple that you see coming up on here, there we go. These are the restrictions. Anything in purple is a restriction, and the aircraft will follow those restrictions, no problem. And there's the first one coming into view, so I'm just changing the distance of the display to 10 miles. I just like to keep it fairly close so you can see what's coming and get a better idea. But we're descending okay. Let's have a look. Should be at flight level 234 by Hammer. We are 234, spot on. Oops. Just a slight left turn. Got quite a strong crosswind here, 32 knots. So our heading is about 183, but our track is 177 or 178. No warnings. Fuel on board 3.8 tons. We're okay there. We're doing fine. It's all looking good. So you see, we haven't done anything. All we've done is change the altitude and pushed it. Push the altitude button in at the top of descent, that white arrow. That's all we've had to do. And the aircraft is taking care of the rest. It's going to follow a descent profile. It's going to follow the constraints. And it will follow the height and the speed constraints. We're not going to arm the landing system just yet because we're too far out, but when we get closer we'll hit the LS, which is the landing system, and as we get close to capturing the ILS, once the landing system magenta diamonds are lined up, which I'll show you, we can then hit approach phase and the ILS will be captured. So still descending nicely, flight level 200 for flight level 025 or 2,500 feet. We're still not on the star yet, just making our way. Just making our way to the next waypoint, which we've got 14 miles to go. I think the key thing here is just to stay calm and not panic. I think when I first started flying the simulator, it was a bit of a panic. You were trying to do things really quickly, which is why I always get the descent performance, the arrival performance sorted. I can always go and adjust it. That's not a problem, and I will go and double check in a second. Although it was done at 2020 Zulu, it's now 2037, so there's no real point me checking again because I know it's not going to have been updated in that short space of time. But it just means I'm not constantly having to do things. I can just watch the plane come down. I can keep my eye on all of the engines, the profile, the altitude. If I need to, I can go back into the MCDU and just check the flight plan. And I'm now making my way onto the star. And here's the first restriction coming in, look. We've got to be above flight level 100. We're currently at flight level 162, so we're above that restriction. So we're okay there. .5 miles. Is that ring there? So this is 5 miles, 7.5, 10 miles. So the dotted line here is 2.5. Got aircraft here in front of us, which according to flight radar is correct. That's interesting. And that looks like it could be the airport. There. Yep, that's the runway there. but we've got a long way to go because we've got to track south to then turn round. But that is the airport. There's one runway, runway 1 left, runway 1 right by the look of that. Good, 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 good. Just sticking to the restraints, that's good. Yeah, there is an aircraft down below us, but that's fine. It's not going to bother us in any way. Slight left. Sorry, that's right, isn't it? So heading of 185 degrees. Coming down nicely. The next waypoint we've got to be above flight level 80, which we are. I'm just going to turn this to the landing system. So the ILS you can see is over to our right hand side, which is correct because that's where the runway is. What will happen as we turn this will start to move and it will line up in a line. Once we know got it in a line, we know we're right on target for it. But not concerned at the moment. We've got no ECAM warnings. We're going now through flight level 10,000 feet in a second, flight level 100. Flight level 100. Slowly coming down. When we get through 10,000, that's when we'll turn on all the lights and turn on the seatbelt signs. Here we go. So let's go to the overhead. Let's get some light on it just so we can see what we're doing. So first things first, seatbelt signs on, wing lights, runway lights, takeoff lights on the nose, and landing lights set. I'm going to turn the dome lights back off. I just wanted to, oops, don't want that, that's for certain. There we go, dome lights are off, just so you could see really. And the green lights here just telling us seatbelt signs are on and the landing lights are on. We'll get our checklist here in a moment, which we can follow. But descending nicely through 499. Next constraint is at 604. We've got to be above 5,000 feet, which we are following well at the moment. Just going to click landing system. What we'll see is the magenta arrows are here and here, and we're too high and too far over for it. But as we turn towards the airport, we'll see the magenta diamonds line up with the yellow line there and the yellow line there. And once they're centered in both, we know we're on the correct glide. Oh, sorry about that. Correct glide slope. Coming down nicely. Just nice and gentle. You don't need to touch. You just need to monitor. Just monitor. So our rate of descent is slowing down now. Don't need to touch the flaps yet, it's too early to do that. Six and a half thousand feet. So watch for standard flash as we go below 6,000 feet. Wait for that. Making a right turn now. And the runway's over to our right. It's over here, you can't even see it actually. Because of the cloud, it's over here somewhere. slightly behind us. Wait for 5,000 feet or it will flash. Oh, stop that. It's over here, the runway. Can't see it now because of the clouds. Cloud cover in Stockholm. Just keep your eye on standard. When that starts flashing, we need to change this. We're changing it to 1021. There we go. It's now flashing, so we pull it and we set it to 1021, which is the local pressure. I'm just going to very quickly go to my electronic flight bag. Let's click update. There we go. 1021, still at -3, still 240 at 4 knots. All good. I'm just going to get ready to activate the approach phase. I don't need to do that yet, but you can see we've slowed down because there is a speed constraint of 200 knots, so I can go flaps 1 now. We'll make it a turn in. We'll see the magenta diamonds start to come and level off. We're starting to descend a little bit more. We need to be at 2,500 feet, or no, sorry, above 2,500 feet. And we are slowing down, but you can see now the magenta diamond starting to come up and line. So let's go approach phase. Let's click that and click it again to confirm. And the aircraft will start to slow down even further. Go flaps. No, we can't yet. Can we go flaps 2? Yeah, we can. Flaps 2 because we're below 200 knots. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get ready for landing. So I'm going to arm the speed brake, which I've done. Now the auto brake, remember we programmed on our arrival performance, and we're going to have low auto brake set. Ground spoilers armed. We're turning now. I'm going to hit approach phase in a second. Once we line up with the runway, we're still descending slightly. We're not. Got to be above 2,500 feet. There's another aircraft there, which is correct. There was one departing just ahead of us. As we turn, you're going to see the airport. There we go. Runway directly ahead of us. Runway 1 left, runway 1 right. Let's hit approach phase. And we've lined up nicely now with the runway. As you can see, the magenta diamond at the bottom. We're just a little bit too high at the moment, but that's okay. As we get closer, we are descending. We are descending for 2,500 feet. We're going to capture the ILS. Flaps 3. Green, flaps full. That's us. Just the case now, bringing this baby down. Now on the approach. So approach is armed, landing system is on, which gives us the magenta dots. Coming to 2,500 feet, which is absolutely fine. We're now capturing the ILS. Now over D7.6. So we should now start, and we are, look, we've captured the ILS. We're still descending now. Now we know that our altitude to climb to, should we miss approach, is 1,500 feet. So I'm just going to bring that to there. It's not going to make any difference because we've captured the ILS. That's bringing us down nicely. And once we get about 5 miles out, which is coming up, 5.6. So what I'm going to do, landing gear down. just going to reset that for 3,000 feet, go around. We're not an ATC. That'll be a go around, and then we're going to have to come back to 2,500 feet anyway. Actually, let's put it to 2,500 feet, because we've got to come back round and capture the ILS. We're going to have to anyway. So 1,500 feet, get ready for, we'll hear the 100 above, remember, at 399. A radio call out. And then minimums at 299. Nice and smooth. You don't have to come off autopilot yet. Normally it's done around about 1,000 feet. I tend to wait till I'm a little bit closer, especially when there's crosswind, because what I tend to do is miss the runway, so I just leave it. So probably minimums or just after minimums. 2 red, 2 white on the PAPI, you can see there, which is good. Speed is good. Stockholm. Profile's nice, 2 red, 2 white, coming down nicely.
500.
Ever so slight crosswind.
100 above.
Here we go, 100 above. Wait for minimums.
Minimum.
Continue. Ooh, I don't like it, but I'm going to do it. We have control. Then okay.
50, 30, 20, retard.
And we're down. In the centre of the runway if you can. Slowing down nicely, slowing down nicely. We're going to miss this turn off, we'll do the next one. And all good. Manual braking, let's come off the runway here. And then we can do our cleanup. Welcome to Stockholm. Just clear of the runway so we can just get ourselves sorted. Take a right hand here, just cross this hold and turn right, I think. And then what we'll do is stop here. Right, okay, so what we're going to do, let's just do a proper clean up. Flaps. Speed brake off, auto brake is off, lights. Okay, so we turn off the lights now. Let's turn off our landing lights. Runway turn off lights. I'm going to leave. Wing lights can come off. Put that to. Ooh, didn't like it. I hate this button. I might have to just leave that one. It doesn't play ball sometimes. Okay. And then just clear off the warning there. That was just a landing warning, which we're all good for. Right. Let's get her into the gates. Let's go on a little trip round. Let's have a look. I mean, this is a Sobo's modelled Stockholm Airport. There's plenty on the ground. Here we go. nicely modelled. And no, doesn't look as though there's snow or ice about here either, is there? So that's pretty good. Maybe a bit icy on the ground or a bit of snow. It doesn't look too bad actually. So what we're going to do is we'll pull in the next one. Didn't look to be any aircraft there. Oh, there's a light aircraft. Oh, that's interesting. Blimey. So let's turn here. Here we go. And we'll just taxi into our gate. Okay, taxi to the gate, parking brake set, flaps fully retracted, seatbelt signs off, doors unarmed, and we'll set the APU running so we could turn off the power, turn off the engines, just start that. Let's call ground services. Let's do it properly. Ground services. Doors left. Cargo aft. Brook. Chocks and cones. I know, you're telling me the doors are open. I've opened them. It's because the engines are still running. Engine 2 off. Engine 1 off. And that's it. Welcome to Stockholm. Let's go and have a quick look at... Oh, that's interesting. I opened the door, but there isn't a... D-board. Yes, please. And that should start moving in a minute. So, that's it. We landed, we took off from Tromso, an hour and 38 flight, and we made it safely to Stockholm Airport. It's not icy at all here, it's -3 degrees, and that was the 5th leg of our journey. Hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions or comments, please don't forget to leave them, and don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button and support the channel. Let us know what we're doing is what you're after, and if you need anything else or you would like any other tutorials, again, please put those in the comment section below. Till next time, goodbye.